Thank you for joining XR India's first AR/VR focused podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Vishal Pandey, who's the co-founder and CTO at MythyaVerse. So, Vishal, really appreciate you taking time being part of the podcast. You've been part of the Defense Research and Development Organization also. Can you kind of explain to us the work that you've been involved in at the DRDO?
Thank you for having me, Eddie. Hi, I'm Vishal, and I am the CTO at MythyaVerse. So I was basically part of a lab in Delhi, which was working on cognitive enhancement for the defense. What that basically means is that we are trying to evaluate, apart from your physical and mental capabilities, we are also trying to evaluate what cognitive capabilities you have and how that cognitive capabilities are specifically required for a specific type of job. So let's say for a drone pilot, memory is more important, or situational awareness is more important than some other cognitive factors. So if we are able to profile you on several different cognitive factors, we'll be able to place you better in the different roles that are available in the defense. So how we do that is basically we use a lot of different tools here. One of the most prominent is XR, virtual reality or augmented reality. Why? Because we can't use real scenarios again and again. It will be very costly. It's not very easily doable. So we create or replicate real scenarios in virtual reality. And using that, basically, we kind of do lab tests or experiments. We replicate real scenarios, real tasks, and then basically we calculate your performance in those tasks. And we are just not calculating how you're performing. We are also able to calculate different physiological measures of your body, like your brain signals through EEG, your heart rate, your different metrics from your body, like skin conductance. So basically, these things give us an idea of like how your body is reacting to the scenario that you have been put in. And based on that, we can, based on these different forms of data, we are able to kind of rate or organize people on a chart. If we get a group of 30, let's say, we are able to kind of divide them or rank them within that group. It's not an absolute scale. So you can kind of find the top few people for the job, or kind of find what's required more for the people who are at the bottom, what more they can train on. So it's not just about testing, it's also about enhancement. So once we are able to figure out what is not working, then we can train you on those specific aspects. And then that training also can be done again in VR. And we can use these specific metric where in VR, we are able to record more precisely, more at each point we are able to record. So we are able to train better.
Elaborate this on a little bit more, because, when you're talking about cognitive enhancements through AR, VR, it's a very complex process, I'm sure, because of what I hear of what you're saying is that you're creating these simulations through which, the candidates kind of experience those environments, and then you have these various devices which does these readings, with the AR VR glasses. Possibly there's inside outside tracks your eye data and stuff like that, and through those each device you kind of connect and get a certain kind of understanding of the wiring and firings of the neuron. How has it helped the candidates, the military, the defense people, and elaborate the process? What kind of data were you trying to collect, and how has it helped?
So it depends on different services that are there. So the very first task or the very first step in the process is to basically break down the task into several smaller steps, or like basically understand what cognitive factors are required to do that task. So cognitive factors are basically just higher functioning of the brain, which combines 2 or 3 different functions or senses of your body together. And based on that, you're able to do some action. So basically things like memory, planning, attention, situational awareness, these are cognitive factors. So for a specific task, like let's say, if I am a ground soldier, do I need more spatial memory, or do I need more attention, or like what are the exact factors that if kept in order of priority. What is the most thing that I would need? So, for example, if I'm doing there are a lot of surgical strikes that happened over the past few years that were done by the Indian Army. So, if I'm thrown into an unknown area, I would probably need spatial memory more so that I'm able to remember a location when I circle back to it, right? So, if we are able to choose people who are either good already in spatial memory, or we are able to train them on spatial memory. So for testing, we can have two types of scenarios. One scenarios would be a general scenario, which you and I can also do, a specialized soldier can also do, a doctor can also do. So these are something known as psychometric tests. And they have existed for long back, like they have been here in form of pen and paper tasks before. Then they were computerized. Now a lot of different people are putting in efforts to make them more immersive through VR. So we had done some of those as well, but these tests are generalized tests, and like they are not specialized to any specific person or specialized to any specific role. So you first, let's say we clear this test. Then the second purpose or the second step would be to do a specific test, which is specified to that person's capabilities or the task that he's being recruited to. So let's say if it's a ground soldier again, the environment would be like a search and shoot environment or hostage rescue mission. So like it'll be a kind of a virtual mission itself. If it's a drone pilot, it'll be a search and a tag drone mission where you will actually be able to control a drone in a virtual environment. So then you go through these exercises, and all of this time we are collecting a lot of different data, and data is coming from three different aspects. One is coming from the game that you're playing. This is something known as behavioral data. So how you're performing in the game. The second data is basically your physiological data, the data that we are collecting from your body. It can start from something as small as heart rate, which can easily be collected using 3 or 4 electrodes that are placed on your body. It can be as complex as 7, 8 different parameters being collected at the same time. And this is something known as physiological data. And the last is basically something known as subjective data, which is based on users' own feedback, or there are some specific questionnaires that the user fills after the task or before the task. So this forms the subjective data. So based on all these three different forms of data, subjective, behavioral, and physiological, we are able to finalize or create different machine learning models around this data. And then based on this, we are able to classify. This can be done again. So this classification can be done either in real time for something. So like my PhD work also is around a defense project, where basically we are trying to calculate in real time how is the person's workload and situational awareness while they are doing a human machine teaming task. So for that, what we are doing is it is not being stored somewhere in a hard drive. It's going to a machine learning model in real time. That model is classifying something in real time, and the user or the user's commander can basically see these metrics coming up in real time, like a graph of the changes in the attention, changes in workload in real time. So that's one way. And the other way is basically if you want to do a more detailed analysis and a comprehensive analysis of one participant or multiple participants, then you basically store that data and you do those analysis offline. And again, there's multitudes of analysis that you can do. Most of the things that we are doing on the research front, it's basically to publish or to create new things. So that basically goes in an offline kind of way. But if we are creating something that has to be mission ready or has to go as a product, then we basically need to do something that is real time and offline won't work at that time.
I'm going to stick to the defense tech over here because I think the two largest industry, where the most of the money is being poured into silently without not many people knowing about it, is largely basically the banking industry, and the second is the defense industry. Various countries around the world who's got their own defense organization. They're having DRDO, America having DARPA, and various countries having their own, and the China having their own. And I think the defense is something. All the countries, all the nations are trying to strengthen not just physically also, but also technically, right? Because there is now machines are being more and more leveraged. And you spoke about an experience that DRDO is building for cognitive enhancement through simulations, through leveraging AR, VR, and obviously AI. Brain-computer interface and neurotech is another huge space which DARPA is leveraging in a very big way. Besides the brain computer interface, neurotech being leveraged for defense, I mean, tech itself has become so huge in the defense. I mean, Pamalaki, Oculus founder, has got Anduril Tech, which has got drones. Then there is Israel and US who are looking at killer drones. China has got, I mean, robotic dogs and so on and so forth. I mean, in the next few years, possibly there'll be more than humans. There'll be possibly machines who will be on the battlefield. So exciting as well as very scary space that we are getting into. Now, MythyaVerse. You gave a brief overview that MythyaVerse is working on corporate wellness and productivity. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. So basically, we started in general mental health. So like my PhD is around cognitive sciences, and my co-founder's PhD and Anmol basically is the CEO of MythyaVerse. His PhD is specifically around computational models of depression. So we started in general around the areas that we know and the technologies that we work in. So we started around mental health and basically using different forms of technology in mental health area. And the more that we delved into it, we wanted to kind of find an organized sector where it's easier to deploy or basically actually use technology or to start off with. Like VR is not easily accessible to multiple people, at least not in India right now or most of the world. So what is one sector where if you like basically, let's say set up an experience center or set up a room in an office, like that's how we kind of got to corporate wellness, where let's say I pitch to a corporate or a company that you can set up a mental wellness or a wellness experience center, which is a technology based experience center and not an just a basic wellness center, because a lot of companies now have started doing this kind of things. How do you enhance that by using technology? So enterprise or corporates basically became our core, core area of distribution, so to speak. So that's where we started, and initially we were doing just mental health, or we were focused on just mental health. But the more we talked to a lot of different people, a lot of different companies and HRs, we found out that a more holistic wellness is required. So now we are building towards something that has 5 different types of wellness. And basically we are trying to cover a 360-degree sorts of wellness for a corporate or an employee perspective. So we, in that 5 wellness, we have the most priority is mental wellness. Then we have physical wellness, we have social wellness, we have intellectual wellness, and finally financial wellness, because financial is, as we talk to more people, we found out that financial is one of the most important aspects based on which a lot of other problems happen. So yeah, and what we have in each of these is specifically, let's talk about one each of these. So like, for example, in mental wellness, we have specific guided breathing exercises or meditative experience, Zen activities that a user can do, and basically come into a room. So like if we are setting it up at an office, you will have a separate room for doing these activities. You'll have a proper VR experience room where you can come in and do these activities. So let's say you come in and you choose mental wellness, you are able to do certain different activities inside mental wellness. One of those could be guided breathing. One of those could be Zen activities, just walking in a park. So those kinds of activities come under mental wellness, where basically we are trying to give you a break from your normal work, or giving you a peaceful break. Like you don't have to do any activity, you just experience what's going on in an environment. So it's basically more of a visual and audio experience. Then there's physical wellness, which basically is kind of it's not physical fitness kind of thing, like where you do hardcore exercises or gym sort of thing, but it's like basic movement of your body, which a lot of people are not able to do because of office restrictions, timing restrictions, that sort of thing. So how do you make people move? So there are a lot of games around physical fitness already there in VR. So initially we are kind of replicating the existing interactions basically, and then we are also trying out some of our own new we are trying to build, but that's going to take some time, right? So that comes under physical fitness, where basically you'll do some basic body movements like jumping, squatting, moving left and right, and basically moving your hand or feet to hit something or block something, stuff like that. So that's the second part. Then comes intellectual wellness, where we are focused on how can we increase the productivity of a person. So in this, we are doing a lot of conversational AI, where basically, let's say, what are the most important parts of an employee's life, which would, kind of enhance their productivity. For example, if I'm training a person in how to pitch their idea or how to negotiate like a proper leader. So if I'm able to give you these scenarios, so for example, if for pitching, I give you a meeting room, I put in 3 or 4 different characters there, which are AI enabled, and they can cross question you based on what you are speaking. You can do a PPT, you can share your slides, and they'll cross question you on very specific points and very intelligently. So you kind of do a run through of the PPT that you'll actually do. Maybe the real humans won't even ask the intelligent questions that they ask, but you'll be prepared and you'll get a more practiced output, right? And apart from this, we can, like this conversational thing, we can create any scenario that, let's say, a company specifically asks us to create. We can create those scenarios. We can, like the office that we are creating, the meeting rooms that we are creating, that can be created as per their original office room. So it's a more, known environment. So things like that can be done. So that comes under intellectual. And another thing that we want to keep under intellectual wellness is cognitive wellness in a way, where basically different brain training scenarios, for example, like again, coming back to cognitive factors like memory, attention, how do we enhance these? Because these are the core principles that any higher, like brain functioning would be dependent upon. So how do we keep a track of your different cognitive functions on a daily or a longitudinal basis? Like, let's say I have a track of these factors, then based on this, I can tell you that today your attention is not well, or your attention has not been well for the past few weeks. Maybe you should do something about it. So you can do an exercise there inside VR itself, like basically play a game. It's not an exercise, it's mostly kind of a game. So that's something that we are keeping under intellectual wellness. And then coming to social wellness, basically right now we are thinking, so this social wellness and financial wellness, they are still under development. So what we are thinking right now for those is basically creating, so for social wellness, we are thinking of creating scenarios where like multiple people would obviously be coming in. So social wellness is more of how we make people talk to each other or basically do some activities together. So any activity can be done, like we can just kind of the games that you are playing in the physical wellness could be made multiplayer and you can do those games together. So that kind of creates a competitive or, peer forced kind of a positive reinforcement kind of a, thing in you, that you are able to perform or better perform than your peer or something like that. And or basically just a collaborative game as well. So where you and your peers in an environment have to do some activity together to kind of increase team, a sense of team and collaboration, right? So for that, we're thinking something maybe like an escape room kind of a scenario, which can be again modeled into different scenarios. And finally, financial wellness. So for financial wellness, basically the what we are right now building is basically kind of an interactive game where basically you, on each step, you learn different things about how your money is working. So like how much, let's say, you're getting as an income, what are the different components of that income, how much you're paying as taxes. So basically getting to know about your financial structure. And your financial means, like, a lot of it is you don't know about where you are paying extra, or how you can, how your taxes are being done. So you should learn those things. So that's more about financial wellness.
Lovely. So, Vishal, I think it sounds really cool. I think today, when whether you're living in a city or any part, if you're working, the day is full, very, very stressful. I mean, not a day, your life is stressful because we live in a very, very competitive world. And mental illness is such a important thing that needs to looked at. So I think it's a very good initiative. So what you've given me is that you're looking at 5-pronged approach towards mental wellness. It's mental health, physical health, social health, intellectual and financial health. Now, social and financial is something that you guys are still pondering on, trying to make it a little strong. The rest is your mental, physical, and intellectual is something that you guys have already worked on. Through the course of conversation, you also mentioned that it could be a multiplayer experience. Talk about the platform. What platform it's built on? Unity, it's built on Unreal, it's a single player experience, it's a multiplayer experience. Is it live? How do you experience it? Also, maybe talk about some success stories, if there's any experiences through these corporates, something that you can share with us, that'd be really nice.
So right now we haven't deployed anywhere. We are in the final phases of doing pilots by the start of next month. So after that, I'll have proper insights into what exactly is working, what is not working, and we can share internal demos with anyone who's interested. They can contact us, and we can share playable files with you. It's not live anywhere, and right now it's mostly a single person experience. But when we put in the social wellness feature, then some parts of it will make multiplayer, where some existing activities will become multiplayer and some new multiplayer activities will come in.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about building this application, because there are a lot of startups now who have engaged into creating a metaverse. Now, building a metaverse has got lots of challenges, whether it's a single player or multiplayer experience. Building it, making it the experience something really that the consumers or the enterprise would look for is like a design challenge. Plus, getting the right team. So maybe talk to us about some challenges that you guys have overcome, which you would like to share with the audience while you are building MythyaVerse.
I think few biggest challenges in XR space, regardless of whatever you are building, is basically one is the optimization of the things that you are building, so that it works on even the lower end devices. Like MetaQuest 2 or MetaQuest is basically considered a lower end device because it's a standalone device. It works on its own CPU, its own RAM. So everything is a standalone device, right? So it has to be optimized very well so that your experience works on it. And whatever you do behind the scenes, the user is not concerned about that if the experience of the user is not fulfilled. For example, if you are trying to put in water somewhere and it's not coming out very great, and for your experience, that feeling of water around you is very important, then the user would not be concerned about if it is hard for you or why you are not able to do it. You have to figure out some way to do it. So that's one part. How do you optimize your different aspects of your project, be it mesh or textures or lighting? How do you make it look beautiful, as well as it's optimized to run on any platform? That's one of the biggest challenges we, as well as any people that you talk to, have faced. The second is interactions. Like, how do you make interactions in VR very natural? Because if you make it very complex, you'll have to take extra time to train the user of actually using the interactions. So how can you make the interactions, which now a lot of big companies also like Meta release their guidelines of building MR experiences. So that includes a lot of guidelines about how to make interactions as close to reality as possible. And what that means is basically if in a real world scenario, you will be opening a bottle by rotating the cap in VR also, or if you're building an experience there also, the experience for the user should be similar, that they should be able to unbottle a cap. If you're adding any form of interactivity where the user has to use their controllers or their hands, then it has to feel natural to the user, especially now that hands are becoming more prominent rather than using controllers. So that's another problem. And then third problem is a lot to do with how to, onboard users and, the backend side of an application, which is not often very talked about. Like how do you create an experience for the user that is very fluid. So for that, you need to have a backend where wherever you are storing the user data has to be connected properly to the things, and he should be able to visualize his past scores, his past activities, or whatever, basically building on what you are building on. So that's another challenge right now in VR, especially like how do you present UI to the user? If it's dashboard, how do you present those in VR? So like a lot of different new things are coming up, like 3D graphs, and those things can replace that. So UI is a big challenge that we also face, and like how do you actually create UI that is more either between 2D, 2.5D and 3D, or like completely 3D. How do you present data to the user? Things like that is, I think, another challenge.
Right. Yeah, I think I would completely double you. And I think any listeners, developers, or students interested in setting up their own XR or Metaverse platform. Yes, I think when you vision out your application, first thing is make sure that your assets that you create, they're completely optimized, and the best way to approach to go forward is make sure that the assets are low poly, so that it sits comfortably in all platforms, and designing your experiences and interactions. I mean, we need to put so much time, because you rightfully pointed out. I think I think in the next few years, most of these HMDs will let you interact as fluidly as we interact in our real life, and because our 2D interface, which we have been restricted for hundreds of years, we're going to break out from that 2D interface. And so this 3D interface is going to possibly emulate entire reality, and everything, like you said, like opening up just a bottle. I mean, maybe the interactions also has to be designed in a way that it's as close to real, because in the next few years or next few decades, I'm sure that questions going to pop up between what is virtual and what is real, because the pace at which we are moving with this converging technologies, from your haptic feedback to artificial intelligence to neurotech, I think we will be immersed in an experience in possibly a few decades where it will be difficult for us to understand what is virtual and what is real. At times, I mean, the Netflix series, the Black Mirror, yeah, when you watch it, it feels like a documentary, that because they somehow kind of have always kind of painted out like what the future is going to look like. So my last question to you, what's the future roadmap for MythyaVerse? And paint out like a picture of what you personally think virtual reality Metaverse is going to do, or how it's going to impact society.
Our very near goals are basically to finalize the first, at least an MVP plus version where basically we are able to do direct to consumer activities, and that's going to happen soon for us. Once that happens, we have plans to integrate different forms of peripheral hardwares as well. So starting with something as simple as integrating your smartwatches into the ecosystem, where we are able to at least gain some form of context of what is happening in your body through HRV or through the different motions of your hand. So we are able to calculate some things from that. So that's where we initially want to start with, and then we want to incorporate more and more hardware peripherals, like going up to EEG devices and FNRS devices, whatever is doable at that time, because that's going to take some time to actually use these devices to add value to the consumer, and not just say that it's a high-tech device. To actually make it valuable, it's going to take some time. So that's in our roadmaps, and basically as a whole, for the technology for metaverse or virtual reality and XR, I see great potential in it if it is actually mixed with other things like AI and Neurotech down the line. Which AI we have already started mixing it. A lot of different people are doing a lot of different things with AI, be it in generation of environments, or be it in generation of 3D models, or just using AI in their applications to complete something, scoring. Those kinds of things are also now done by AI. So a lot of that is happening. And down the line, things, I think those things will survive, which are actually adding value to consumer. Like right now, metaverse has kind of become a bad word. So how do you take that to a positive sense? Is basically anything that is able to add value to a consumer, and that can be any segment of consumer, right? So like metaverse right now is adding a lot of value to corporate people for employee onboarding, HR things, right? So that actually is adding real value. So how do you create applications in the future that continue to add value and basically bring back that a powerful sense of how things are supposed to be built, and how productive things are supposed to come out of these technologies that people use in everyday life, which is very less right now. So how does that happen? And with the advent of the big companies that are building the hardware, they are basically pushing this a lot. So I think down the line, 3-4 years from now, when the hardwares are a bit cheaper, when more people have access to it, and more, because content is being developed every day on it right now. So by that time, we'll have more content on it, which is useful for different sectors. So I think it will just keep on growing, and eventually there'll be a time where, like you said, it will be difficult to recognize what's real and what's virtual. So I can see that happening.
Right. Vishal, really appreciate you taking time, being part of the podcast. Wish you and your entire team the very best. I think the names don't really matter, because through the ages, we've got emerging technologies going through its winter cycles. And yes, today I think metaverse is it's an overabused term. I mean, nobody wants to use that, but I think it's not just about the name. It's about the technology, like you rightfully pointed out. If it solves a certain problem and if it adds value, that is the winner, because that is what the entire world is looking at, whether it's enterprise, whether it's brands, or whether it's consumers. So yes, I mean, to the listeners, I mean, what people should take away from this is when you build out something, make sure that what you're building out solves a genuine problem. And if you solve a genuine problem, I think the entire world comes together, whether it's the investor, whether it's the stakeholders, or whether it's the market, everything comes together and will work in a way to uplift your product. So on that note, appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. And to my listeners, please understand that we cannot do without you guys, so you guys need to subscribe. It helps us carry on. So please subscribe, and see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.